Hey guys, I'm the 50s Kid. This is an E46 BMW. This video is part of my M54 engine rebuild project series. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to reset or reinstall the timing components and set the timing on the M54 and or M52 TU engines. So let's get started. So if you want to retime an M54 or M52 TU engine, you need a set of these timing tools for the double Vanos. I got these on eBay. I will put a link in the description. Make sure the crankshaft locking pin is in there and it's locked to the flywheel. If you have come from, if you've actually removed your whole bottom end and you've had it on an engine stand and you've rebuilt everything, blah, 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 pin's not going to be in there. So what you want to do to get it right is you want to put your engine at top dead center. To put your engine at top dead center, all you need is just a long screwdriver. And what you'll do is you'll put a 22mm socket on the crank bolt and you'll just kind of rotate it around until number one piston is all the way at the top until it's at its highest bit of travel. You will see that there's a timing mark on the timing cover and there's also a little mark on the crank pulley as well. Those two will be aligned and that's when you'll be able to get that crank pin in there. I've got it in there because I had it in there when I removed everything. Okay, we need to get the camshafts in proper position. Proper position is when number one cam lobes are actually in this position facing each other. You see this one's a little bit too high. This camshaft is actually rotated a little bit. So the way to rotate it back is to take a 24mm wrench and you can just grab onto this little ledge right here and you'll be able to move the camshafts back. Another way that you know is that you see two dots on the little square on the back of the camshaft. That's how you know when they're in the correct position, when those two dots are up. So now we're going to install the cam locking tools on the back here. In order to do that, we got to remove these two studs. I've already pre-loosened them. So now we'll just get our little camshaft locking tools on there and we'll use the wrench to sort of twist the cam so that it just kind of lies flat right there. We'll end up doing the same with this one. You can see how it's much higher right there. So this one needs to be adjusted as well. So there we go. You can see you try to adjust the cams wrong, those blocks won't sit flat, so we're good there. We're locked in. So now we're going to put the main sprocket on and you'll see there's a little arrow on it. That arrow is going to be aligned with the top of the cylinder head right here. Now the chain shouldn't fall too far down there. There's kind of really not much room for it to fall down too far down in there, but if it does, just use a magnetic pickup tool, telescoping pickup tool. You can get these at Harbor Freight, your favorite tool store. Don't be afraid, I think I said this in the last video, don't be afraid of the chain falling off of the lower oil pump sprocket because there is a little ledge that is holding it up to the sprocket. That little ledge is sticking out from the timing cover, so it won't let the chain fall away. It's holding it on. So don't worry about that. So now I'm just gonna eye this so I can get the sprocket alignment correct. I do have it on the correct tooth right now, and here's how I know. There should be tension on this side because there's always going to be tension on this side because the chain tensioner is down here. The chain tensioner pushes, inward from this angle, so that's how it always has tension. So go ahead and push your finger down from underneath through the chain tensioner slot And then make sure your little arrow is right aligned with the top of the cylinder head, which in my case, it is. I'm gonna put my lower guide in next. I'm just reusing my original one here. I actually do have new ones to use for when I actually do this job for real. Remember, it's the really, really long bolt goes up here. So I'll just get those started a little. And then we're gonna have the 2 bolts for either side of the cylinder head into the timing cover itself, and the longer one is gonna go on this side, I do believe. Get those started. I'm honestly not sure about what the tension should, what the torque should be. I wasn't able to find any torque specs for these before I looked them up. You could probably just look at generic torque specs, but you know, for the size of the bolt. I'm sure that somebody, one of my helpful viewers, will comment. Somebody knows exactly what these torques are. I'm just doing them, you know, just tight. I think the goal here really is just don't overdo it, because these are so, you know, these bolts are so small. Okay, next we are going to reinstall the tensioner. So if you remember, the 2 mediums go in front here. The really short one goes behind. The really long one goes down in front. So I'm sure these are M8 bolts, and by now I know that M8 bolts that have 10mm heads are always going to be torqued to 10 Newton meters, which is 7.4 foot-pounds, or let's call it 71 inch-pounds. I calibrated my inch-pound torque wrench before I started this, so we're all good. And it's just not much. You really don't even need a torque wrench for it. I mean, honestly, the idea with that is just don't over torque it. I'm gonna move this pin so that it's like just on the outside of that little ledge. That way it doesn't interfere with the chain going over. So next we're gonna install the tensioner tool into where the primary chain tensioner goes. Ah, what an awkward angle. So I'm not able to get this one like all the way flush with the block itself, or the head, I suppose. And then all you need to do is, it doesn't really matter, because it's just this inner stud that's actually doing the tensioning. So you'll still be able, you still have enough room to adjust that. And you can see all it's doing is just tightening up the tensioner there. And really, you only want, I mean, the instructions say 0.7 Newton meters worth of tension, which is like 5 inch-pounds. So that's barely, you know, it's almost nothing. So once this thing is kind of tight, then that's it. So once you can't really get it any tighter, you're good. Okay, next we're going to install these 2 parts. Now you'll notice that you've got these 2 little nubs right here, but not on the other side. This part only goes in a very specific way. That's why you're going to install it with this part as well. It's only going to align one way, because one of the teeth is missing on it, as well as on the cog, as well as on the inside. So this is only going to fit onto the camshaft in one position. It's only going to fit onto this piece in one position. You'll notice this is longer on this side than that side. The shorter side goes in. So we're just going to align this up, get it on, and then we will do our best to get it on there. So we're going to put these studs on now, and the bolts on either end are actually different sizes, so you can't put them on the wrong way. One size is too small. So I'll just get those threaded in all the way. Yeah, basically the part with the little round end goes out. And they're going to get torqued to 20 Newton meters, which is 15 foot-pounds or 177 inch-pounds. And they're number 12s, by the way. The book wants you to align, pull this out and align these holes so that the threaded holes on the inside are right in the middle of the slots right here. But the problem with that is that if I do that and I line them so that they're right in the middle, I think that this cone is in a little too far because I've taken the spacer tool and put it on there, and I can clearly see that there's a little bit of a gap inside here. So if I pull it out to right where it's supposed to be and come out, I can see that we're not exactly in the center. It's just a little bit further, you know, that way, because when you pull it out, it rotates this cog that way. So I don't mind pulling it out, you know, a little too far, because when I put the spacer or the alignment thing on, it's going to push it in. So I'll come out to, you know, towards the end of the slot right there. That way I've just got some room to push in. So your timing kit is going to come with this little jig tool to help you realign these sprockets and the chain. But there's a problem with mine. As you can see, the two pegs, you know, they're spaced a little too far apart. So I would have to grind one of them down in order to get this thing to fit on here properly. And I don't really want to do that right now. I want to say thank you to the viewer who pointed this out for me. Thank you. You were right. And because I knew this, I made sure to just, you know, not mess up the alignment of these parts when I put them down on my table. I just kept them like this, and now I'm going to go ahead and put them back on. So the easiest way to reinstall this is to put the little cone thing in there first. That way it's much easier to get on. You can just kind of look in and see where the tooth is, where the missing tooth is. Right there. At this point, we can go ahead and put these bolts on right here. We're not going to make them tight. We're just going to make them snug, such that this thing can still adjust if it needs to. Okay, then we go ahead and put this spacer on. Put it on the studs, the rounded studs. Then this spring tension plate with the F facing outward. Then the timing wheel, there's a little arrow on it. That arrow is going to align with the top of the cylinder head. Just like that. We also have this little spacer plate that does have front written on it. We need to position these cups in correctly. So this one, you just want to pull it out until there's about 1 millimeter of the splines showing. This other one, you can screw in one of the Vanos bolts to help you, and you want to pull that one out until it's all the way out. I suppose you want to do that one first, and then we can reposition this inner one, because they move. One will move the other. So I think that might be all the way out. Yeah, okay, so use the chain to help you turn this, okay? So you want to, if you pull the chain this way, the little sprocket's going to go in. If you push it that way, it's the little sprocket's going to go out. So we've pulled it to where it's all the way out right there. Kind of hold that in place and then use this, well, hold the small one in place and then push this sprocket until there's about 1 millimeter showing. So we're going to push down on the tensioner and pull the pin out. Then we're going to preload this front spring by pushing it in and just hand tightening the nuts. Then we'll put the mounting plate on here. And as we tighten that mounting plate on, it's going to push the little cups back into the perfect position. Right there. So now we're going to tighten everything to an initial torque of 5 Newton meters or 44 inch-pounds. We're going to start with these. Follow up with these. The final torque on the Torx bolts is apparently 20 Newton meters, 15 foot-pounds, 177 inch-pounds. Final torque on these nuts is 10 Newton meters, 7.4 foot-pounds, or 71 inch-pounds. So we're going to leave the alignment tool on the front of the engine for now. Pull off the camshaft locking tool and pull out the crank locking pin. I'm just going to use a screwdriver to do that. Help me out there. Crank lock pin out. Now we're going to rotate the engine over 1 full turn. Basically, the crank rotates twice. Camshafts rotate once. So we're coming back to top dead center here. We should basically be there. So I'm going to put the crank pin back in. Rotate that hole so I can get at it. We might have to back off ever so slightly. Yeah. Okay, right there. So I've got the crank locking pin in, and now I'm going to put the camshaft locking tool on. And I want to make sure that it's flush with the back here. If it's totally flush, which I can feel it's totally and completely flush, we're good. We did it correctly. The engine is in time. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of the timing chain pre-tensioner. Well, if I can, let's see. Back that off first. Okay, let me pull this off. Now we can go ahead and reinstall the chain tensioner. So I believe the torque is 30 Newton meters. Somebody please correct me on that because I'm just pulling that off the top of my head. But I'm not, there's really no way to torque it. It's in a very awkward spot. So, you know, I'm just making it tight. It's kind of all it needs. Now, the trick for me is to get this off of there. Okay. So remove my camshaft tool as well as my crank lock pin. for the final time. So at this point, you're in time, you're good, everything's locked down. Remember, don't rotate the crankshaft around without the Vanos unit installed, because these little things are going to tend to walk out of here on you. So if that happens, just rotate the other way and you'll be able to push them back in. Then you'll be able to get the Vanos on. So yeah, all we need to do at this point is, all you would need to do is put the Vanos back on, put the valve cover on, and you are done. Me, I'm going to proceed with ripping this whole thing apart again. So that is how you retime an M54 and M52 TU engine. I think really the key there is pulling the little cups out all the way till their stops, well, at least the exhaust one all the way to its stop, and then positioning the intake one so that it's about 1 millimeter out, like I said, and then tighten the alignment plate on so that it presses the cups into place. That really is the key to doing this right. Make sure you've got the pin out and you've got tension on the secondary chain right there while you're doing that, or before you torque everything down. The final pre-torque of, just first using the 5 Newton meters for one, for the Torx bolts, and then for the outer bolts, and then torquing everything down from there. I don't know if that's absolutely totally necessary. I'm sure there's a reason for it, but if you don't have a torque wrench if you don't have an inch-pound torque wrench, I won't tell anybody. But I think as long as you follow the whole procedure of pulling the cups out and pushing them in with the tool as you tighten it down tight to the engine, I think that is the key to doing this job correctly, and having it so that when you spin the engine around and you put the cam plate back on the back there, back of the camshafts, to have it sit down correctly every time. So hopefully you guys found this video useful. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. I'm the 50s Kid. Thanks a lot for watching.